Welcome, Corkscrew Thinkers, to another lesson on how to create engaging content. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at Instagram. Now, it's not just for those photographers who can take beautiful pictures. You can also utilize Instagram for your business and your personal brand. So as always, let's see what we're going to be covering. To begin with, I want you to understand by the end of this lesson, you will know what pieces of content, how to post those pieces of content, when to engage your followers, to make sure you break through the noise to communicate your message. So why now? Well, it's important more so than ever because you're day trading people's attention. We see more than 4,000 messages a day. So your job is to cut through that noise to communicate your message, whether that be a call to action to buy your product or for them to engage with a post so you can actually get market research on a new course content you want to create. I'm going to show you how exactly to do that. Now, before we get going, I want you to create a business account on Instagram. This is very simple. It takes a couple of seconds and you don't have to pay a single dime. We won't be able to show you on this tutorial because of course we're on a desktop, but on your mobile, if you head over to the little cog setting, scroll all the way down to, I believe it's change account to business account. You'll then be able to, after a couple of steps, transfer your personal account into a business one. Not a lot will change, but you'll get a few new features. For example, you'll be able to get a little grey title underneath your name where you can change that to entrepreneur, personal blog, or public figure. But most importantly, you'll have access to the insights. Now, the insights are going to be extremely useful for you to analyze which pieces of content are doing well and what pieces of content aren't doing so well. It will show you three other things. It will show you who your followers are in terms of where they are in the world, what age and what gender. It will show you the impressions and the actual likes and engagement on each piece of content. So you can see in a nice feed what piece of content did well. And most interestingly, you can see when your followers are most active on the platform. Now we're going to cover that shortly in terms of what times to post. But there's an interesting argument to be had, and we'll be covering it in just a moment. So let's see what we'll be covering first. Why business accounts are essential. They're essential because they will allow you to analyze your performance. What gets managed gets measured. And if we don't have something to measure, we don't know if we're succeeding in our plan. When to post. Now, we're going to head over to my account and we're going to have a look at things that I experiment with daily to see when is the best time to post. Now, there's always arguments to be had of when is the best time to post. For myself, my followers are least active in the morning. So at this time of day, I normally post or repost content I've already got. This is because most people are looking for hits of motivation to start their day. Now, the great thing about this is not much competition. Picture it like you're a fish. You're in a small pond and you're a big fish. So you're going to get a lot more eyeballs, but the content can't be too heavy. So as you can see, I posted this stuff in the morning and it engaged pretty well. The comments are going to be a lot less in the morning, as I said before, because most people are starting their day. However, these pieces of content I posted in the evening. Personally, I try to keep my feed aesthetics, which is a video in itself. I post 3 pieces of content at one given time. These were posted all at the same time within seconds of one another, but you can see the engagement was very different. The fear with posting in the evening for myself when my users are most active is you're playing with Instagram's algorithm. It's a competition. You're no longer a big fish in a small pond, you're now a small fish in an extremely big pond. So what you need to figure out is how do you hack it in the evenings? Well, I post my most powerful piece of content in the evening because if it does well, a lot of people will see it. So I posted my usual motivational content in the evening and you can see it performed pretty similar to the morning. However, it got 0 comments because people were distracted with the mass amounts of messages. However, you can see the one in the middle where I post myself and my mother, exceeded expectations of both posts and is probably one of my most engaged pieces of content to date. The reason for this is quite a powerful bit of content. I understand who my followers are, and I think that's one of the most important things you need to do before you start posting, is understand who is your target audience. For myself, I have 3 categories. I have my personal life, my athletic life, and my business life. So all my pieces of content kind of split up into those 3 sections. For yourself, you may have 5, you may only have 1. But if you understand why people follow you, you can keep producing content that is valuable to them. One of the key tips to succeeding on Instagram is producing consistent and valuable pieces of content. And I understand who my target audience are, so I try to break it up by not posting the same thing every time. So understanding when to post is what your business account will allow you to look into. Moving on next onto what we'll be looking at, the different types of content. As you can see, they're not all photos, they're not all videos, they're not all just text. It's a variation. People get bored seeing the same old thing. In fact, there's a term called banner blindness. Facebook found this when they had all the ads on the right-hand side on the desktop. You might not remember this, and there's a reason why. What happens is our brain becomes very smart and it wants to be efficient. It's also very aware when it's being sold to. So what happened was Facebook noticed people weren't clicking or even looking at the right-hand side of their feeds because they knew that's where the adverts were. And it's same with the Google searches. When you search for something, you get the ads at the top. Well, our eyes kind of skip those Google ads and we go to the first organic one without the ad because we're aware that maybe we can't trust it, we're being sold to. So you want to switch up your pieces of content. And I do this by reposting other people's content. So it's not always me. Posting tweets because they still have relevancy on a different platform. And also, like I said, sharing my personal life because not all the time do people want my study tips, which of course most people do, but I understand there's a small majority that do want to see the man behind the business. Moving on next, use everything. Now, Instagram has various features, and what I recommend is you use every feature. On your stories, make sure that you use boomerangs because what will happen is Instagram will favor you when you use all of their tools. Use your highlights however you wish and deem necessary. Make sure you have a link in your bio. And when it comes to posting, always post a location, play around with the caption, and be sure to always tag someone or something in that photo. Now, I'm not saying this because I've tried and tested it myself. I've learned from people who are killing it right now. People like Lewis Howes. Good artist copy, but great artist still. So make sure you follow someone who's killing it on Instagram and look into what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how effective is it. You know, for example, here he has his tweet, which I've replicated, a short caption, and of course he's got a bigger following than myself and many of you watching. Don't let that put you off. We all have to start with 1 fan. But Lewis tries to make sure that he gets back to as many people as possible. Okay? So by looking at what other people are doing, you can stay ahead of the curve and make sure that you're always a step ahead of what the competition are doing. And finally, engaging with your fans. Now, I mentioned this just a moment ago. Now, nice little hack here is Instagram, similar to Facebook's algorithm, is they promote your posts when there's engagement. Now, if you are doing something that's time sensitive, say for example, you have a product that is launching tomorrow, every comment you want to respond to keep it up in the top of people's feeds because it's launching the next day. However, if it's not time sensitive, drag it out. Allow your content to be hot for a minute, and then when it starts to quieten down, begin to then comment and reply to people. So let's have a look at this. This was back in August 24, and people started commenting on the day. What I started to do was I started to respond to people a couple weeks later when the content started to slow down. And you can see I constantly do this. Whenever people comment, I don't comment straight away. I allow it to go a couple of weeks, couple of days, and I say, hey, thanks, great to hear, keep it up. What happens here? Two things. The person's going to get a notification and they're going to come back to your feed and they're going to see the new content you've got and like and engage with that new content. Additionally, they'll reply or like your comment that you responded on to that post. And that's going to push that post back up onto their feed and to people who follow them. This is how you can keep recycling your own post and stay relevant. Now, for many of you, you're going to say, but Jordan, I just don't have time to produce content every day, every week. I'm just not that exciting. Believe it or not, the only piece of content in my past 6 is this one I had to create, which was at a festival. All the rest I recycled from Twitter, I reposted from someone else, and I once again reposted someone else's piece of content. All of it is relevant. And when people come to your feed, the first thing they're going to look at is when did they last post. So for example, I posted a day ago on this post right here. Now for many people, when they see this, they're going to be like, okay, I'm going to follow this guy. He's constantly on his game, producing content. But if you haven't posted for a couple of months, you can bet your bottom dollar people aren't going to follow you, because why should they? You're not going to bring them any value anytime soon. Now, it doesn't have to be, like I say, a perfect image. Recycle and repost. The key is consistent, valuable content. Now, your piece of homework for this lesson is I want you to post at least once a day. That's all I ask. Now, I'm posting 3 posts every other day, but I want you to challenge yourself to create a piece of content. Now, that piece of content can be on your story, just like so, or it can be an actual post in your feed. Whatever you decide, challenge yourself to post at least once a day. You'll notice a few things. Number 1, you'll notice that your engagement and followers will slowly increase. Number 2, you'll find what works, because looking at your insights, now you've got a business account, you'll be able to see what piece of content are doing well. And number 3, you'll find what piece of content aren't doing well, and you can stop doing that and double down on what works well. That's all I ask you to do after this lesson, is post a bit of content once a day for 7 days. Document, don't create. Until next time, I'll see you in the next lesson.